Everything.
Check. On you guys, check.
Yeah. He's a pro. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning to all of you. Can you take your seat please, because the session will begin very soon. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The plenary will not start unless all of you will be seated and not in the alleyways or the corridors of, or the sides of the room. Thank you. Again, ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The meeting will not be convened for the elections of the council for part 1 and part 2 unless all of you have been seated. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, honorable ministers, excellencies, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome all delegates to this session. We are convening this morning to deal with Agenda 5, which concerns the election of member states to be presented on the ICAO Council, the election of the Council for parts 1 and 2. Before proceeding to the vote itself, I would like to remind all delegates of certain procedures that will be followed in relation to this voting session. I would like also to address the order of business for today. The first order of business is item 5, election of member states to be represented on the council, part 1 and part 2. There will be a coffee break immediately after the concluding of the election of part 2. After coffee break, we will continue with item 9, reports by committees and commission of the Assembly and the action thereon, the approval reports from the Executive Committee on item 11, 12, 13, 20, and 21. Thereafter, we continue with item 8, statements by delegation of member states. We will do that until lunchtime. And after lunch, at 2:30, we will convene with the Executive Committee. Thank you. For the purpose of the election of member states to the Council, attention is drawn to Assembly Working Paper A39, Working Paper number 2, which is the relevant document providing detailed background information about the election, including the maximum number of seats for each part. Delegates are reminded that during the 37th Assembly session, which took place 6 years ago, the rules of procedure were amended in order to allow the use of an electronic voting system for the election of the council, with the understanding that manual votes will remain in place as a fallback option. The Secretary General's memorandum of 29 September 2016 informs the Assembly of the names of the member states who have submitted their candidatures for election to the Council in the parts as specified in the memorandum. I understand that a copy of this memorandum, along with the 8 memoir outlining the use of the electronic voting system, has been placed on the desk of each delegation. I have been informed that some of the logistical preparation for the vote today has been undertaken by the Secretariat in the presence of representative of the Evaluation and Internal Audit Office. This pertains specifically to the preparation of the PIN code envelopes, which will be needed by delegates to vote and which will shortly be distributed. The presence of the Evaluation and Internal Audit Office during this part of the preparatory process helps to provide an added assurance to the Assembly in guaranteeing the confidentiality and anonymity of the electoral process which are about to undertake. For the detailed procedures on how the vote will be conducted today, I would like to invite the Secretariat Coordinator of the Assembly and the Council Support Unit, Mr. Andrew Lacoste, to outline the steps involved. Before doing so, however, I would like to invite delegates to switch off all personal electronic equipment, including mobile phones and laptop computers. This is so as to minimize possible interference with the electronic voting system. Please be assured that access will be restored once the election process is complete. Thank you. Mr. Lacoste, I now hand over to you to outline to the Assembly how we will proceed with the election process.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, everyone. I should like to begin by informing delegates that the election procedures we will be following today are as follows. Voting tablets and PIN codes will be distributed only to those delegations with the right to vote. For the purposes of the vote, and in accordance with Rule 43 of the Rules of Procedure of the Assembly, only chief delegates, alternates, or delegates have the authority to vote on behalf of their delegation. Advisors are not entitled to vote. To protect voter anonymity, delegations will be given the option to randomly choose a PIN code from one of several envelopes. There is to be only one PIN code per delegation with the right to vote. As the President has already mentioned, the preparation of the PIN code envelopes you are about to receive was undertaken in the presence of the Evaluation and Audit Office, so as to ensure an added layer of anonymity. The names of all member states nominated for the purposes of the ballot, as well as a statement of the maximum number of member states to be elected, will be provided on the electronic ballot in your voting tablet. For the purposes of this first ballot today, 11 member states have nominated as candidates to fill the 11 available vacancies in Part 1. This means, therefore, that you may vote for any number of candidates up to, but not exceeding 11 candidate states, since this is the number of vacancies to be filled by this ballot. An affirmative vote shall be indicated by selecting the name of the member state for which the vote is to be cast. In accordance with Rule 60 of the Standing Rules of Procedure of the Assembly, to be elected a member of the Council, a member state must receive the affirmative vote of a majority of the total number of member states voting. The submission of a ballot shall constitute the act of voting. As the President has already mentioned, we would at this time like to invite delegates to switch off all personal electronic equipment, including mobile phones and laptop computers. This is so as to minimise possible interference with the electronic voting system we will be using today. Please be assured that access will be restored once the election process is complete. We will now start screening a short video presentation on the operational features of the electronic voting system. I encourage you to please follow this presentation by viewing the overhead screens. Thank you.
To start a voting session, click the Home button on the lower right corner. You will be presented with a ballot selection screen. Please select the appropriate ballot as indicated by the President of the Assembly by tapping on the blue box. You will be presented with a login page. To activate the keyboard to enter your PIN code, tap on the top text entry box. The keyboard will show at the bottom of the screen. You can now type your PIN code. If you make a mistake while typing your PIN code, tap the backspace button located at the top right corner of the keyboard. Please note that the PIN codes are not case sensitive. You will have to confirm your PIN code by entering it a second time. When you are done, tap the blue button with the right arrow. You can now select the member states you wish to vote for by tapping the empty box to the left of each state name. To unselect a member state, tap the same box again to remove the selection. To scroll down the list, tap the screen and hold, then drag up or down. Please note that if you wish to submit a blank ballot, tap the blue button with a right arrow without making any selection. Once you are satisfied with your choices, tap the blue button with a right arrow. You will be presented with a confirmation page with a list of your selection. To modify your selection, tap the orange back button to go back to the previous page. You can now modify your selection. Once you are satisfied with your choices, tap the blue button with a right arrow. You will be presented with a confirmation page with a list of your selection. If you are satisfied with your selection, tap the blue Submit button located at the lower right of the page. This will submit your ballot. This will conclude the voting process.
Thank you. I now ask all election monitors to take their positions prior to the commencement of the distribution of the voting tablets and PIN codes. As the election monitors move into position, I would like to mention just a few more relevant points. Firstly, the election monitors will distribute one tablet and one PIN code envelope to each delegation with the right to vote. In addition to the voting tablets and the PIN codes, the monitors have a list of the names of all member states. The chief delegate, or the person taking the place of the chief delegate, will be required to sign that list in order to acknowledge receipt of the PIN code. This also ensures that your delegation is included in the record of the meeting as having participated in the vote. It is important that when delegates receive their PIN code envelopes, that you do not open the envelope until the distribution to all delegates is complete. I repeat this point. Please do not open the PIN code envelope until the distribution process to all delegations is completed. I will inform the Assembly when it is time for you to open the PIN code envelope. Just before we commence the distribution of the tablets and envelopes, one final point to mention is that we would like to ask delegates to please assist the election monitors by making space so that the election monitors can pass through as they proceed with the distribution. If all the election monitors are in place, I now ask them to commence the distribution of the PIN codes and voting tablets. Thank you. Once again, I ask that in order to assist the monitors in their work, we kindly ask you that all delegates cooperate by making room for them to pass by and collect the signatures as well as to complete the distribution. This is very important since the Assembly Hall is quite full and we need to allow the monitors to complete the distribution process as quickly and as efficiently as possible. It is also very important that delegates refrain from opening the envelopes or from handling or touching the screen of the tablet until all tablets and envelopes have been distributed and until the ballots have been activated for the voting session. We will inform the Assembly when the ballots have been activated and when it is time for you to open the envelope. I remind delegates to take one envelope only. As I have already mentioned, you will be required to sign for your envelope and you are requested to refrain from touching the screen until we commence the vote. Well done. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I can inform you that the monitors have now completed the distribution of the voting tablets and PIN codes. Just to confirm, has every delegation with the right to vote received a tablet and a PIN code? Is there any delegation with the right to vote that has not received either a tablet or a PIN code? Thank you. Okay. There is one member state that has indicated it has not received a PIN code and a tablet. We don't. They don't get one. They're not financial. Is that yours? Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies for the delay. There have been a number of member states that have turned up late, so we've had to do a further redistribution to 3 member states, and that has delayed us a little bit because for some of them we had to confirm both the credentials and their financial status. We should be finishing shortly. Hello? Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies for the delay. There had been a slight, there's a number of member states that turned up after we had completed the distribution, the first round. There were 3 member states that turned up after that. So we've had to do a further redistribution, and of course to protect anonymity, we've tried to do it in a fair way, that they've had the option of choosing a PIN code and to do it in a way that no one can verify which code they took. So that's delayed us somewhat, but I think we are now complete. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Just to confirm, however, is there any delegation in the room that has not received a tablet or a PIN code and has the right to vote? Thank you. That being the case, I should now like to ask the Secretariat to activate the ballot for this part 1 of the election process. Please note that the activation of the electronic ballot may take a short while. Thank you. I am informed that the ballot for Part 1 has now been activated. So, ladies and gentlemen, the voting session is now open. You should begin by opening your PIN code envelopes. For this ballot, you will need to press the icon that indicates Ballot Part 1, as you see displayed on the overhead screens. Thereafter, you will need to enter your PIN code into the voting tablets, but please note that you will need to enter the code twice in order to confirm the code. It should also be noted that the PIN codes are not case sensitive. As there will be many delegates accessing the system at the same time, there is a slight possibility that you may experience a minor delay when accessing the ballot for the first time. In this case, please be patient and you will find that the system will become accessible in due course. Should anyone require assistance at any time, please raise your hand and one of the election monitors will provide assistance. Please be assured that sufficient time is allocated for the submission of the ballots. I will inform you when we are approaching the end of the voting session. This is a reminder that in order to view all the candidates on the ballot, you will need to scroll up and down the list by touching the scroll bar. Yes. Peter? Encore? Once again, this is a reminder that in order to view all the candidates on the ballot, you will need to scroll up and down the list by touching the scroll bar. Although the names of the candidates are listed in all 6 languages, the ordering of the candidates on the ballot is shown according to the English language. Delegates are also reminded that for this Part 1 vote, you retain the option to vote for up to and including 11 candidates on the ballot. The choice is yours. South or which one? South? One is saying south, you're saying Sudan. Which one is it? Is that yours? Ladies and gentlemen, could I have your attention? I am informed that the majority of eligible delegates have now cast their vote. Therefore, the voting session will end shortly. Is there any delegation that has not yet submitted its vote and still wishes to do so? Can I ask one of the monitors to provide assistance to South Sudan, please? Ladies and gentlemen, I will shortly be closing the vote for this part. Is there any delegation that has not yet submitted its vote and still wishes to do so? Could I ask the election monitors in the far left back corner to provide assistance to the member states seeking assistance? Okay. That being the case, we will now be closing the vote. I declare that the voting session is being closed, which means that no further ballots can be submitted. I understand that the process for closing and deactivating the ballot will take approximately 30 seconds to complete. In ICAO, 30 seconds is a long time. Et voila. So, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, the vote is complete. The results are being displayed. So, I take this opportunity to inform delegates that a total of 170 PIN codes were distributed. A total of 170 votes were cast. This means that the majority required to be elected and the number of votes a state would need to be elected is at least 86 votes. Accordingly, all the member states that have nominated for Part 1 of the election process have been declared elected. They are Australia, 149 votes. Brazil, 167 votes. Canada, 142 votes. China, 154 votes. France, 152 votes. Germany, 162 votes. Italy, 166 votes. Japan, 155 votes. Russian Federation, 145 votes. United Kingdom, 156 votes. United States, 151 votes. There were no blank ballots submitted. I congratulate the elected member states. I would like to thank delegates for their cooperation in this election process that we've undertaken. However, I would like to remind you that it's very important at this point of the process that you keep hold of your PIN code so that we can proceed immediately to the vote for Part 2 of the election process. You do not, however, need to keep this PIN code for Part 3, which will occur this Tuesday. At that time, new PIN codes will be distributed. That being the case, we will now proceed with the Part 2 election process. As mentioned, the same PIN codes will be used for this part. For the purposes of the next ballot that you are about to vote in, 12 member states have nominated as candidates to fill the 12 available vacancies in Part 2. This means, therefore, that you may vote for any number of candidates up to but not exceeding 12 candidate states. If your voting tablet is not showing the ballot selection screen, we invite you to press the Home key, which is located at the bottom right corner of the screen. I would now like to ask the Secretariat to activate the ballot for Part 2 of the election process. Once again, please note that the activation of the electronic ballot may take a short while.
That's your next result. Please go. Please talk about the 1 minute wait. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I am informed that the ballot has been activated for Part 2, so the voting session is now open. I invite you to commence voting by pressing on the ballot Part 2 icon, as you see displayed on the overhead screens. As you will recall from the previous Part 1 election, you will need to enter your PIN code into the tablets, but the code will need to be entered twice in order to confirm the code. Please remember that the PIN codes are not case sensitive. Please also be assured that sufficient time will once again be allocated for the submission of ballots, and I will inform you when we are approaching the end of the voting session. As mentioned earlier, if any delegate is experiencing difficulties with their voting tablet, please raise your hand and one of the monitors will assist you. This is a reminder that in order to view all the candidates on the ballot, you will need to scroll up and down the list by touching the scroll bar. Although the names of the candidates are listed in all 6 official United Nations languages, the ordering of the candidates on the ballot is shown according to the English language alphabetical order. Delegates will need to use the scroll bar to view the names of those candidate countries that are lower down on the ballot. Delegates are also reminded that for this Part 2 vote, you retain the option to vote for up to and including 12 candidates on the ballot. The choice is entirely yours. Likewise, in order to submit a blank ballot, you are reminded that you simply just click the Submit Ballot option without selecting any candidates if that is your preference. As there are a number of delegates raising their hands for assistance, I ask the election monitors to be alert to raised hands for their area. I wish to also remind delegates that in order to complete the voting process, you will need to click the Submit Ballot icon. Once you have submitted your vote, we ask you to refrain from pressing the Home icon at the bottom right corner of your device, since this will merely return you to the ballot selection screen and prevent further access to viewing the results. As with Part 1, once you have submitted your ballot for Part 2, a thank you message indicating that your vote has been accepted should be displayed. You will be redirected to the results page when the results are available. This is also a reminder that if you wish to change your selection before submitting the ballot, please press the orange back button to be returned to the ballot page. Otherwise, if you are satisfied with your selection, simply press the blue Submit button. I am informed that the majority of eligible delegates have cast their vote. Therefore, the voting session will be ending shortly. Is there any delegation that has not yet submitted its vote? Once again, for those delegations that have not yet submitted their vote, if you are experiencing difficulties and need assistance, please raise your hand and one of the monitors will provide assistance. I wish to remind those delegates that have not yet submitted their votes that you need to press the Submit Ballot icon to cast your vote. Is there any delegate that has not yet submitted a vote but still wished to do so? That being the case, I inform delegates that we will be closing this part, the voting for this part will be closing shortly. I now declare that the voting session is being closed, which means that no further ballots can be submitted. Once again, I understand that the process for closing and deactivating the ballot for this part, well, my script says approximately 30 seconds, but while I will inform you on this occasion that it will take about 2 minutes to complete. Et voilà. Thanks. So, once again, as you can see from the votes, thank you. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, once again, we have 170 votes cast, which means that the majority number of votes that a state would need to be elected is at least 86. In this instance, all the candidate states that have nominated for Part 2 have been elected, and I declare them so. Argentina, 156 votes. Colombia, 154 votes. Egypt, 153 votes. India, 151 votes. Ireland, 153 votes. Mexico, 160 votes. Nigeria, 152 votes. Saudi Arabia, 151 votes. Singapore, 164 votes. South Africa, 157 votes. Spain, 160 votes. And Sweden, 154 votes. I congratulate you all and welcome you to the Council. At this time, I would like to remind delegates that you do not need to keep your PIN code for Part 3 election, which will take place on the afternoon of next Tuesday, the 4th of October. New PIN codes will be distributed at that time, and the PIN codes you received today will no longer be effective. I would like to thank delegates for their cooperation in this voting exercise we have just undertaken. I would also like to ask for your continued cooperation in handing back the voting tablets to those monitors as they move around the Assembly Hall to collect the tablets. This is very important as we do require the tablets to be returned to the Secretariat. Mr. President, that concludes the voting for this Part 1 and Part 2. I hand back to you now.
Thank you. Thank you. I congratulate all those states that have been elected to the Council, and on behalf of the Assembly, I express the confidence we all have in those member states that they will work in the best interest of both the organization and the global aviation sector. The voting session is now complete. The audit reports generated by the electronic voting system will be sent directly to the auditors. Please also note that it is now 10:38 in the morning, Montreal time. Therefore, in accordance with the rules of procedure for the Assembly, candidatures for Part 3 of the election should be sent to the office of the Secretary General before the same hour on Monday, 3rd October 2016. I repeat, please note that it is now 10:38 in the morning, Montreal time. Therefore, in accordance to the rules of procedure for the Assembly, the candidatures for Part 3 of the election should be sent to the office of the Secretary General before the same hour on Monday, 3rd October 2016. In relation to the Part 3 vote, delegates are reminded that this is scheduled to take place here in the Assembly Hall next Tuesday, 4th October at 1400 hours, 2 p.m. Montreal time. Thank you. We will now take a coffee break and come back at 10:45. 10:45 we will convene on the plenary session. Thank you.